In my last speech, I talked about how do you know the things that you think you know. It's based on a pyramid of trust at the bottom of which is the scientific method. Scientists use a standard approach of hypothesis and proving hypotheses to establish scientific truths. Other scientists keep them honest. Then, scientists will read the work of other scientists that they trust and assemble broader theories. They publish books explaining how the world works. Those books are reviewed first by other scientists and then by reviewers in the public sector, such as myself, who say, that makes sense. Yes, I've read the sources, I believe what they're saying. And ultimately, you in the book buying public buy the book, read it, maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. This system works pretty well. How do we establish the truth of what happened with dinosaurs, how the planets move, what genetics is all about? This is pretty well established, and it's been established by exactly this path. However, sometimes they lie to you, because there are good reasons to lie to you. And this talk is about when people abuse the process to lie. Why they do it, how they do it, and when they do it. Let's start with why. Money and power. If they can convince you of something that isn't true, they get your money. With governments, add control. The governments like a nice, peaceful citizenry. They don't want problems. So they lie to you to maintain control. The third reason is religious conviction. Not Christianity. Nobody has been a fervent Christian for a long time now. But people believe modern myths with a religious fervor. They believe in global warming. They believe in the evils of GMOs. They believe in the evils of vaccines. With an unstudied religious conviction is dangerous. Chesterton said that when people stop believing in Christianity, they'll believe in anything. And this is exactly what we see. Unreasoned support of some positions. Lawyers say that when you have the facts on your side, pound the facts. When you have the law on your side, pound the law. And when you don't have either of them, pound the table. I'll start with global warming. They do have the law on their side. There's a law of physics that says as greenhouse gases increase, all other things being equal, the planet should warm up a bit. They have the facts on their side. Through the 1990s, global temperatures, as measured by almost everybody, went up. Global warming appeared real in the 1990s. However, since about the year 2000, it has stopped warming. They don't know why. This has caused all sorts of problems and table pounding. Government employees in the United States and England have fudged the numbers up. They push the level of the sea level up. They push temperatures measured by balloons up in the atmosphere up. They have lots of ways to do it as they adjust the data. They basically have taken to pounding the table and lying when the other approaches didn't work. Because they have a moral conviction that it is warming, that those evil white men have destroyed the planet, and they want to prove it. And this goes to another couple of arguments. There's the moralistic fallacy, logicians call it, which is that if it ought to be true, then it is true. Those evil white men ought to be guilty of destroying the planet, therefore they are destroying the planet. There's another fallacy called the genetic fallacy, that says that you have to have the right genetic makeup in order to study things. That is, white men cannot study women. We cannot study people who aren't white. Presumably, we can't study chimpanzees. Only chimpanzees should be doing research on chimpanzees. So people will disqualify your research because of who you are. Okay, well, I talked about global warming. They do have facts and they do have science on their side. When you talk about equality, you don't have either one. Intelligence researchers have known for 100 years that the intelligence of the general population is spread out according to a bell curve. There's smart ones and dumb ones. You look around this room and you'll see people who are smarter than you and dumber than you. You know, talk about it, doesn't make much difference, but it's there, everybody knows it. More than that, the average intelligence of populations differs by a large amount. There are some populations, the average intelligence of which is lower than anybody in this room. Now, the smartest people on earth, and this has long been known, are the Ashkenazi Jews, Jews who live here in Ukraine. I don't have to tell you, you all tell Jewish jokes about how smart the Jews are. You know it. Next come Chinese, and then us white people, and then there are several ranks below us, but shh, not polite to talk about that. And in fact, it's against the law. It is against the law to cite the science, these scientific studies done by scientific method that find that different populations have different intelligences. They will throw you in jail. You will lose your job in Canada, England, Denmark, Germany. You can't say it. It's one of the things I like about Ukraine. So those are I told you about the why is control, power, religious conviction, and the how is through these fallacies, and the when I've hinted at. Global warming would be the first, and global warming, there's a huge constituency for global warming. There's a lot of money involved. They always say, look at the oil companies, they have a lot of money to spend on lobbyists, they influence governments, and yes they do, and they always have. What they don't mention is how much money is involved in the green side of things. How much money is spent on lobbyists by the solar panel people, the wind power people, the electric car people. All of this, they have a lot of money, there's huge investment, and there's a lot of sex appeal. It's not that one side is with the angels and the other side is devils. No, they're both spending a lot of money to influence what you think. Be careful. In the equality argument, like I say, there's no science to support what they say, but there's a huge amount of money. There are billions of dollars spent by people resettling refugees, ruining the societies of America and Western Europe by bringing in all these refugees, and their salaries depend on the refugees being able to be assimilated. They never are. They've been in Germany for 60 years since I was there as a young man, and they haven't assimilated yet, but they have to believe that they will be assimilated. It's a lie. But their salaries depend on it. In America, we have a huge, $1 trillion industry trying to close the black-white achievement gap. There's a book by that title. They have spent, as I say, trillions of dollars since I was in school, which was a while ago, trying to close the black-white achievement gap, and they haven't closed it whatsoever. They haven't even made it narrower. There's as big a difference as ever because differences in ability, but they refuse to see it. There's another thing that's killing Europe is immigration. Here are some truths. Immigrants arrive poor. Poor people vote for leftist parties. Therefore, leftist parties want immigrants. It's a simple equation. And that's true in the United States and true all over Europe. And they get all these immigrants who vote for the leftist parties, and you can't throw them out. Basically, everybody west of Austria is inundated with Muslims, and they can't even talk about it anymore. And they can't cure the problem. And thank goodness the Visegrad countries, east of Austria, don't have so many immigrants, and they can talk about it. Whew. Thank goodness for small things. Let me go to the last thing. Money. Ever since Bitcoin came out, they've been saying Bitcoin is evil. Bitcoin is only useful for money laundering and drug dealing, and you should avoid it. They also tell you you shouldn't bother with gold. Gold is a barbarous relic. There's no reason any rational person would have it. It's hard, difficult to protect, it pays no interest. You don't want it. The real advantage of Bitcoin and gold is that they're scarce. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins, period. No inflation. There are 185,000 tons of gold. That's enough to fill 3 swimming pools above ground. And they mine it only 4,000 tons per year. It goes up a little bit. Bitcoin is scarce. Gold is scarce. That's why they have value. On the other hand, they have doubled the number of yen, doubled the number of euros, doubled the number of dollars in roughly the last decade. They have allowed government debts to go up to about 100% of gross domestic product, more in some cases. Money that can never be paid back. So what this means is that the value of the dollar in my pocket has shrunk by half over the past decade. And my claim on the assets of America has diminished by 50%. That's not reflected yet in inflation because they're lying successfully, but they won't be able to keep it up forever. They never are. So what I'm telling you is that first, the way that you know things is by the scientific method and by the pyramid of trust. Read people who know what's going on, investigate whether they've done their homework, whether they've assembled their books correctly, whether they have any bias, and then form your own opinion. But if you accept the opinion of the media and the government, you're making a mistake, because recognize that they have a strong motive to lie to you. So it's up to you to use the tools you have through the internet and the library and everything to figure out the truth, because you need to know the truth to protect yourself. Madam Toastmaster.